All right, hello, and welcome to the recap video of the December Thursday Nighter. So, usually we would do a stream and cover it live, but we weren't able to do it this week, so we decided to just meet separately and cover the games after they concluded. So, we're going to go through all 7 games from round 1 of the December Thursday Nighter. Welcome back to the channel. I am Nubairshah. We're very pleased to have such a strong player commenting on the games.
Thank you so much. Let's start the recap. First, we'll go with the Premier section.
Yeah, just
So
in just
now,
one moment before we jump into the games, I'm just going to summarize the November results since it is week 1 of December, and we just want to summarize what happened last month. So in the open section here, Mitchell took down the section with 3.5, clear winner, solo winner of the open. So good job to Mitchell, and it looks like I believe he's playing Premier this month. I'm not sure on that, but I think he is. So it looks like he kind of did a graduation up to the higher section. Congratulations to Mitchell. In the Premier section, we had Miles taking it down. So Miles just pretty clear crush this month, 4-0, no
wow,
losses, and second place, 2.5. So yeah, Miles just really running over the tournament last month. Good job to Miles. And yeah, Miles actually has a few Premier section tournament wins, so he's definitely a strong heavy hitter in the club. All right, but with
yes,
that, let's get into the games that actually happened in week 1, and New Bear's going to take over here. So thank you so much.
yeah. Once again, congratulations to Miles for 100% score. That's great, 4 out of 4. And let's start with the recap part. We have Zager playing against Edie on board 1, and it was a Queen's Pawn opening. We had Queen's Gambit, and it was not declined in the initially. Bishop G5, DC4. So black accepts it. U3, A6 takes. And usually, yeah, now the bishop problem is solved. Bishop comes back, bishop F3, B7. And usually they try to play bishop F3 because in general, the bishop on B7 is like strong and keeps attacking with G2. Let's say we play knight F3, but we cannot easily play knight E5. G2 is hanging. So many times when they play bishop E2, the idea is to go bishop F3. Or else it would simply just can go like this and try to create some battery on the diagonal. But in case if you go bishop e2, I believe this is a good idea to continue with, because let's say if you take, then we can even go like queen f3 and like something like c6 needs to be played on knight d7, and then this squares are a bit weak. And this was even played by Niels Scandinavs before, and he had won against 2450 international master. So
It's pretty
this is a
clear.
good idea. Yeah.
Pretty clear that bishop is coming to B7, and it's going to be Black's most powerful piece. So let's just get that guy traded off if we can. But Dane also is a big attacking player. He doesn't like to.
Trade pieces.
He doesn't want to just trade off his opponent's strongest piece. He'd rather, just see what happens in the middle game, play for an attack. So it makes sense why he didn't go for that line, even though it's probably objectively strong.
And they managed to exchange both the central pawns, and it was more or less equal. But then suddenly, Zaga decided to take on f6, because if knight f6, then we have got rook d1 and attacking the queen, getting some tempos. The bishop could be hanging in many lines. Knight b5 is coming, for instance. The queen f6 was played, rook d1, and now black cannot easily castle. Probably one of the main problems here for the black. So queen goes back, defending the knight, and still here knight b5 was possible, because after takes bishop b5, the d7 knight is pinned, knight e5 is coming next, even if you play rook d8. And this is how the piece is being lost. And let's say if we play bishop c8, we can play knight c6. So queen g5 was played, threatening a checkmate here, a nice tactical point. But queen was very well placed to defend g2 and also defend knight with f4. Indeed, yes, white loses the e3 pawn in this, but it defends the mate and this attack, and king is still in the center. So something to worry about for black.
And this all
Ace
happened in the
takes.
game.
Yeah, this is what happened in the game. And now b7 hangs. But here, luckily, black can castle because it's not a check. Maybe this was also an option, like this, playing like this or something like that. Bishop d7, maybe king e7. We have got queen c5. So bishop d7. Let's just see this variation, what happens. So king f8 probably. I have a feeling this is winning for white somehow. For instance, can we play bishop e6 here? F e6 and queen c7. I was wondering. Ah, no, sorry, it's my bad. G2 is a checkmate. So king g8. Yeah, so not so clear. So that's why white decided to play rook d7 so that the g2 is safe. But and if knight d7, the b5 hangs. So takes rook b7, bishop e5, and now the position is equal. But like the material was it's equal, but white has got two passed pawns. So if white start pushing them fast, it will be a problem for black because like it's gonna take some time to get this pawn rolling, and also there are some pawns in front of it. But okay, there could be some problems with the h2 pawn. So bishop d3 was played first, g6, rook b5, pinning the bishop so that there's no queen h4. Yes, queen h5 is possible, but then you can play even something like g4 if needed, or h3 is Sylvester. Black trying to exchange the white's active piece, and white finds a new weakness for black. It's interesting. b3, queen c7, g3, queen b7, queen g2. And in my opinion, black should not have exchanged the queens here because it's the white king which is more weaker compared to black. Maybe something like queen b4 or just waiting here for some time, queen d7, and just maybe trying to push a pawn would have helped black to get something in the game. But after takes, it becomes easier for white to push these pawns forward, something like this. And I think it's if anyone has winning chances, it's whites because of the passed pawns on the queen side. A4, king f8, bishop e4, and now just push. So of course he's gonna play bishop c3 or d6, but that was not played. So it's very simple. In such positions, we need to play bishop c3 and just prevent the pawn from going forward. And now the rook cannot be moved. We simply have rook b3. And okay, anyways, we can improve the king further. So this was the chance for black, but instead he went for king e7, and he was low on time. So that's also a thing. He was trying to bring a king. That is also a valid point. But then if you could stop the pawns here on the third and fourth rank, it's better than to stop them on the fifth and sixth rank. I mean, you can also stop them on seventh and eighth, but it's better, as early you could do that.
Yeah, gotta stop before the eighth.
Bishop to c6. This is the idea. And black was just playing passively. Maybe that is the reason why he lost the game. Maybe he would have just started pushing those pawns and try to create some pressure against the white. He did that, but I think the move wasted here cost it in the end. And now we could simply see this pawn queening. If bishop comes here, king comes like that, and then this pawn will roll. So he plays king d7, preventing king's entry. But now the other pawn starts rolling. And that's just game over. So it's just one pawn, is no connected passes or pawns. So a7 8 is gonna come next, and this is where a8 resigned after because a8 is queen and king d7, bishop e2 was played. So yeah, this is where he resigned, as now b7 a8 is unstoppable.
So one quick
I think
question.
that's eight Zager, yeah.
One quick question before we move on. If you go to the opening, so I feel like Black must have done something a little bit overambitious to allow this sacrifice and underdevelopment that kept his king in the center.
Ended like
Uh,
for
where
instance,
where
like,
where was Black? Yeah. So just castles here instead of c5, or I mean,
yeah, just
what's
castle, and then just next move c5 or rook c8 c5. Anyway, black is gonna play c5, but if you play c5 directly, then takes maybe castle is not possible because then there's a b4. So he needs to capture, but whatever captures, some rook d1 is going to become the 95, some threats. And after this, maybe, and again now the c5 will be hanging. So if you capture, then what is the problem is white is gonna take on f6 and also on c5. So one of the pieces will be hanging on c5, whether you take with the knight or bishop. So
so?
that's the problem here for premature c5, I guess.
Yeah, I like Dan here in this game because he basically said, I followed all the opening principles. I got all my development done. You're lashing out before you've completed development, so I know I'm obligated to make something happen here, and he did make something happen. So I think pretty cool showcase of chess principles. And Eddie needs to, realize he's got the black pieces and get your king safe, especially if your opponent's fully developed before trying to have your cake and eat it too.
I
So
thought maybe this was an interesting idea. I was just looking at the line G3 if I can take here. And now the idea is simply to bring the rook. I don't know if it's working or not, but it looks very dangerous for white. So for instance, queen G2, you can play like this, and even after queen H4, there's a perpetual at least, rook hangs. So, and if king G1 again, this rook D5 or rook D4 ideas. So maybe just an example, I mean, queen E5 and now the H2 hangs. So if you play H3, then the bishop goes back and makes a battery again. So my point is like black could have kept the queens on the board because opposite color bishops really helps the attacking side, and but instead black went for exchange of queens,
yeah,
which was a problem.
that's an interesting dynamic because look, he's got 2 minutes on the clock. So from that perspective, you want to trade queens because the position simplifies. But he's got two connected passers, so you can't simplify because the ending's bad. So I guess you know got to keep it
And
complicated, even though you're low on time. When you see two connected passers,
and I believe this is also important to just block the pawns as quick as possible. If we could have done bishop c3 here, would have been draw. I think easy draw.
all right.
But after this, okay, white has some chances because the pawns are a bit advanced. And okay, now that there are going to be some new threats. And here also like black wasted so much time, like just moving this. Maybe could have just started pushing the pawns, then would have made some sense. And now simply king came in and took control of the dark squares. And now we cannot stop really b6, so bishop b6 check, and king b4, and then the a5 is a problem. So
All right,
yeah, I think
perfect.
good game by time.
Good game by these guys. I think we are a little over budget on their game, so we're gonna have to speed it up just a tiny bit for the remaining six games. But yeah, let's keep going.
Yeah, let's move to the Basil versus Connor. And Connor has won this game
Okay.
by playing.
We got a very interesting tournament this month. We got a lot of strong players: Dane, Connor, Nathan, of course, and yeah. Go ahead.
And Connor was just blitzing out the Burgundian defense moves. We could see with the moment he go bishop g2, he just took the pawn, captured the material, and now that's the point of this bishop b4 check. So if you don't give the bishop b4 check, the bishop is on c1, and many times the d5 protected by the queen. But after bishop d2, the queen bishop blocks the way of the queen, and now we could simply see that after there's no knight e5 possibility, which is a after dc4, the regular idea is to go knight e5. Because of bishop being on d2, white cannot do knight e5 because the d4 hangs. And that's the point of this, including bishop b4 in the Burgundian defense. And so black took a pawn and got extra material. So this is attempt to stop b5 and bishop f4. I mean, white definitely has the compensation, but
So,
he's not getting the pawn back.
what's the difference between Bogo and closed Catalan here, or am I?
Uh, yeah, so when you just play, let's say the close Catalan, you just try to play nf3 g3, like we saw yesterday in the World Championship match between Ding and Gukesh. So he played with the g3 order, and I believe he also included bishop b4 check because this helps. If you include this check many times, the d4 pawn hangs or the d5 square is not guarded by the or supported by the queen. So they try to give this check many times. But if we just play, let's say a close Catalan or something like a Catalan, let's say. So it just goes like this: bishop e7, bishop g2, and let's say castle, castle. And now if black tries to play like c6, b6, or very slow game, we call it close Catalan. And if black takes the pawn, we call it open Catalan. So that's the difference
But and
between
then
open.
and then the big reason why he on Bishop B4 is to force Bishop D2, so he can't play Knight D2 E4 there, right?
Yeah, we can like okay, why there's multiple options, knight c3, bishop d2, and knight d2. I mean, all of them are mostly people play knight d2 or bishop d2. This is very rare because if you play knight c3, then actually it becomes the Nimzo Indians g3 variation, which was made popular by Fabi in 2019, I believe. But after the pandemic, this variation almost vanished. I don't see anyone playing this much because what we're trying to do in this variation is you're trying to play the Nimzo Indian like a Catalan. But now you honestly develop the knight, so many times black can just go d5 and capture the pawn, get b5 and stuff because it's a pin. So not really that great variation, I believe. But okay, it's an interesting try for sure. Fabi has got great results back then before pandemic.
And
So
this is a bit of a side trail, but I do have a question for you because it's just interesting. I have seen in a lot of openings that white can kind of just play g3, bishop g2, and treat it positionally, and it seems to work out just fine. Like I had a friend just win a couple games against the Najdorf with g3, bishop g2, and I like to sometimes play it against the dragon. I like to play it against the perk. It seems like you can almost take any opening and just Catalan your
and yeah,
bishop and make it
change it to
positional.
the king, make your king safe. Uh, but the point is, I mean, you don't win because of the opening. You win because, I mean, whatever the player wins in Nazareth or whatever opening we call it, Catalan or whatever it could be, it's because of the king safety. Like they make the king safe and later they outplay their opponent. Because I'm pretty sure whatever opening it is Nazareth or Catalan, the portions are just portion coming out are just equal.
Got it.
So
So
so they
it's
are main lines, but yeah.
would this apply to this line too? If you played g3 against the Nimzo, where it's kind of just equal and not ambitious, but it's not necessarily like black's taking over or anything like that.
He makes sure that there's no b5. So interesting decision by Basil. Uh, so e4 here. Again, knight e5 is not possible. I believe something like castle would have been better option, trying to move the bishop and followed by knight e5. But instead he goes for e4, and maybe the idea is to go queen e2 in future. And that's why b6 was played, no castling, because if you play castling, then queen e2 and white can capture the pawn. But if you play b6 here, now there's no time to capture as bishop comes to defend the pawn. So that's the reason of playing e4 and b6 before castling. Castles, 95. Again, now 95 first, because if you castle, then black can play 97, and black is happy. Not, I mean, 95 he will just take probably. But now he play, that's why 95 was played first, making sure that there's no 97 easily and the pawn is under attack. So bishop a6, castles, as if queen a2 d4 would hang again. And now b5. Maybe here it was possible to take and go something like this. Knight d4. And I was wondering if I could play this e5. It looks very fancy. I can just simply take here. But I was just looking at this move because now you attack this, and indirectly this. Because when you take on 8 and white black takes on 8, then the d4 hangs. So maybe this was an also an interesting option, but there's a knight d5. The point is after queen d4, knight c3 is coming, and the b5 is hanging. So queen d8, there's a rook d8 possibility.
Yeah,
Or even like, yeah, it looks a Macy line. So
it looks like the type of position that favors calculators. So good for Connor. That's his
yeah,
strength.
very tricky. And Basil was trying to keep it as positional as possible. I was wondering what he could have done if bishop f4. Like here, he played queen b6, bishop e3, and now queen just 40, bishop f4. Maybe this is possible, but then again, this knight could be a problem someday. Or even like this. But instead, he decided to go queen c7
Yeah,
and queen
it's
e2.
interesting. People try to dry Connor out a bit because they know he's good at tactics, but I feel like maybe a strategy you can actually use is just lean into the complications because he still makes mistakes like everybody. But I don't know. I
Yeah.
guess probably just play the pieces, not the player, is the best way to really approach chess in general.
And now Kona just got the extra pawn and he consolidated probably and won this game, it's my opinion. Okay, White tried to maybe create some attack like this, but it's not really much once the pawns are rolling. Maybe he could have tried bishop g5 or knight g5 here, trying to at least eliminate the bishop so that you will have some attacking chances in the future. You could go to c5, d6, but bishop g5 was not played. And I think this is the last point after which the game is more or less over because let's say bishop d2 at 6. Now there's no time or way to play bishop at 6. You need to do something like queen c1 bishop at 6, which rarely works. So at least now white is trying to go this side. c5, queen g4, king h7. Takes. Okay, bishop simply rook d8 because this could be even taken later. There's no harm in this. That's what happened in the game. Check, king h8. And now if white tries to do something like this, then the f2 pawn hangs with the queen. So queen h5 was played, threatening knight takes f7. And if bishop d6, they want to play bishop h6 here. But the corner has calculated everything perfectly. He played g6, and the point is very simple. If you take, take, and take, then the f2 hangs with the queen. And once the queens comes up, I mean, it's very hard for black to lose this. So
Well,
bishop h6.
it's impressive that that's hanging on because, yeah, just optically, this looks pretty scary with those light squares. Like, especially you see that bishop on a6 just totally shut out of the defense, and you can imagine black just getting mated here. But it looks like nice, precise calculation.
Yeah, corner has found a very great decision defense as well. So g6, bishop g6 takes, takes, queen g6. And now it's been turned into checkmate here. Queen have to happen in the game.
Just a lot
And
of
queen f3.
pieces.
Yeah, even queen f7 is simply winning.
Mm-hmm.
The rook g8 was played in the game because black one maybe wanted to checkmate the opponent. Bishop g7 takes queen h6 actually here. And again, queen f7 is possible, but no king h7. Black just wants to checkmate.
So,
And rook g8, not even defending the bishop.
yeah, that's I want to do a count on that. How many moves did he leave that bishop on pre?
Okay, let's guess it.
Yeah.
So it was hanging from this point. So bishop d6. It was white who did not take here. So from
Ah,
26 one number to
okay.
35,
Fair enough.
9 moves.
Yeah. So I guess that was just it was just via it was mandatory. So it's not like he was being too cheeky. He just
Yeah, and
he
this is
could
very top.
he couldn't he could never take it. So that always feels bad though if you get your beautiful octopus knight chopped and you can't even recapture the piece.
Mhm. So black just got the material, and then again not interested in trading queen, just going like this, and wants to finish off game style. So finally, Basil decided to resign. Very good attacking and calcul and a precise game by Kuno here with accurate calculations.
Nice, good job.
So
And I think Michael won a recent tournament as well. So yeah, we got the club's serious players facing off.
yeah. So let's just go as per the sequence. Mm, so we have got Nathan versus Agam, right?
Nathan versus Ronan.
Yeah, yeah. From this is from the premier session, right?
Yep.
Yeah, because he played in both sections. So I just wanted to confirm. So e4, c5, knight f3, and it was like a Sicilian defense and the classical one. But here suddenly black goes for the dragon or the accelerated dragon, they call it. And they just want to play bishop g7 immediately. And okay, white gets the square for the knight, and this will give white some edge for some period.
Roxy binds. This is what I
Yeah.
play myself. So there's a ton of hyper accelerated dragon players in the club. So if everyone better gets some weapon ready. Uh, Either try to mate them or try to Roxy, but you're definitely going to see it. It's way more common in our club than I would say the general population.
So this is like quite common to play this line and knight g3. And I have also played this portion many times, but with reverse colors, uh, playing from English opening. But basically, it offers a good chance to both the sides. Like it's a practical opening. Both the sides get chance to outplay their opponent, and whoever plays well generally wins the game. So white has already achieved this knight d5, and this a6 is a mistake because then this pawn becomes very very weak, and I think that's the reason why Agam lost this game later on. I believe that's my just like a thought, and we could see this coming. So he takes, and now even now he's sacrificing the pawn because rook b1 and rook would just enter inside. So black decided to play rook b8, threatening bishop takes b2, and simply bishop b6, and now the queen is failing very, very bad out there. If you go to e8, then there's knight c7 at some point. If you go to c8, then the knight is overloaded. Sometimes if b4, b5 comes, it would be a problem. White simply plays queen d2, protecting the pawn. And okay, again they consolidate the pieces where white is far ahead than the black. And this is also a mistake. Maybe something like rook c8 or even just waiting further would have been helped black. But this allows rook to c7 in the next move, which is very, very dangerous. I would have played this first, but maybe rook c7, queen a4, and some counter attack on this pawn. So b3 simply preventing the queen's activity.
Yeah, I mean,
b6, rook c7.
symmetrical position like this, what is there to fight for besides the c file? So it feels like white is doing pretty well.
I'm really impressed with Nathan's play. Like, who have played it really well so far.
I feel like a lot of players underestimate how valuable control of an open file is in certain positions. You know, it's oh
A-
I can contest that
Absolutely.
later. I'll figure out a way to. And a lot of
Hmm.
and I think because a lot of times they do. You know, because the player who controls the open file doesn't use it properly when they have it, so they do get a chance to just build an anchoring piece and challenge through the file, and everything works out okay. But you see in cases like this, it doesn't always work out like that. Sometimes they take the file and then they press critically.
So, ended a very good game by Huo here. And maybe let's just quickly check out his second game, which he plays against Steven.
Perfect. So he played this in the open section. So Nathan sometimes plays two boards, kind of helping us with the house player issue. So if there's odd number of players, he can play in both sections. You might wonder how is that possible? Well, it's two separate tournaments. We have the open section actually is run as a totally separate tournament, and Premier is a separate tournament, so they can.
Play a Samuel against two players at the same
Yeah,
time.
he's playing a simul against both players, and it is actually a pretty cool opportunity for low rated players in the open section to get a chance to play against national master. You know, a lot of times Nathan is probably a lot of players' first national master that they've faced in a game.
Yeah, and d5 already Scandinavian defense. And Nathan enjoys it, just plays e5, maybe for fun or something. And look at this g4 already, h4, h6. Usually this is not good to do in general. Like I mean, for example, even bishop e4 is coming here. There's no f3. Queen h4 is very annoying. And if you have to play knight f3, then something else went definitely wrong for white in the opening. But okay, he just wants to enjoy, so he's playing like g4 h4, h6, bishop e3, h5 goes back. Okay, black got decent position to play on.
Yeah, that knight c3 looks a little bit misplaced.
Yeah, this was hard to explain. But I don't know where else do you develop your knight apart from that square, because sometimes, okay, they do play like knight g2 and stuff, but with this much exposed, I think it's difficult. Or maybe you can try c4 and followed by knight c3. But they decided to play knight c3 directly.
It's the Jobava knight style.
Mm-hmm. Queen d2, d6, c4. Knight b5, and I look again, like whenever you push pawns, we need to be really careful because every pawn move creates a weakness. And in my opinion, okay, I know the attack is gonna come on the king, but you need to castle. If you do not castle, then it will be a problem. And that's what happened in the game, I believe. Weakness got created here. Now simply maybe even if taken c4, white has a very good position. But white decided to go very professionally in systematic way. Knight was kicked. And now we don't have this knight on e7 to defend the first square, so knight comes back. And now simply long castle. So this gives white a very good position in general. Extra moves, extra tempos in the opening. White is all set to go for g5, f5 with probably rook on f1. So knight c6 was played. Rook u1, takes. Knight c5, f5.
And here I think, yeah, finally castle. I feel like you see that kind of happen a lot in club games where they see this pawn storm coming and they're just like, I'm not going to castle into that. I mean, and they just wait. How do you?
But
I
I
mean, it is a tough dynamic, but I feel like, you know, you really can't leave your king in the center. Otherwise, you're never going to develop rook h8. Is the main, or maybe do I understand that dynamic correctly? I mean, if I'm understanding correctly, how you punish somebody who leaves their king in the center way too long is you play against the rook that they can't develop. So you open a file, you open the queen side, you try to get in and say, well, if you're not going to castle, you can't. What is your rook h8 going to do?
Yeah, absolutely. Just break the center. Trying to open the center files is the best way to do it. For example, he was trying to break the center with f5, maybe some take g5 ideas, and maybe even take in some lines. So black decided to castle, but I think it's already little bit late because f6 comes in and the king is very awkward. And he did not take, so g5 also, and now it's very tough for black to survive this attack. Takes rook g1, knight e4, takes. And okay, c3, just preventing any counterplay because there was no way, anyway, black could have defended his pawn. So queen c2, rook g5 was possible, but then again some rook c3 ideas. So he simply played rook e4, but takes rook g5, and now there's no way that he could sacrifice something. Takes, king goes there, and now simply queen d2 or bishop g4 followed by queen d2 or queen f4. Of course, not rendering this, but something like that. So queen g3 was played in the game. c1, rook h7, and game over.
Ah, nice finish.
A very nice, cute tactic finish. Everyone was busy looking at this, if rook g5 is coming or not. He goes there to defend the rook, and we get a cute finish by Nathan.
Well, nice game by Nathan. 2-0. I can't complain about that for a tournament night.
So both the games I really liked by Nathan, and they were like clean. And it's not easy to play a classical game where, I mean, you don't make mistakes and just convert the advantage very well. So I think the player of the week definitely goes to Nathan so far.
Good job, Nathan.
Yeah. Now talking about the board four in the premier section, I believe. So Daniel is playing against Blomer John.
Yeah, these are two up and coming younger players. John
Okay.
especially is he's getting close to 2100 and he's been upsetting really strong players. John plays really actively nationally, and so John clearly on his way to national master. And then Daniel also kind of nice. He's kind of strong up and comer. Was playing the open section for a while and then is moving up to premier. He was winning the open section, so
Nice.
John kind of skyrocket teenager, and Daniel is up and coming club player.
Interesting. And they play first the game starts with the e4 game and goes into Sicilian, but then the Rosolomo opted by Daniel here. Bishop g7 castle, knight d4.
Yeah, and John's
A6.
also new to the Sicilian. He was a longtime French player and just gave it up,
Uh-huh.
and now he's going into Sicilian waters. So we'll see how well he knows his stuff here.
Yeah, let's check. Take it out. But for sure, I mean, okay, he lost the bishop, and then I could see the moves coming like this. Maybe d4 was necessary. I understand that why he did not do it because you don't want to really open position with opponent having two bishops. But if you play this passively, also it's not going to work because it's too slow. Like you need to input the knight, then the bishop, and so on. But black is just out of danger in my opinion. Like and enjoying the central control
When
apart from the two bishops controlling light as well as the dark squares.
when he played a6, did he have a chance to play a4 or not really?
A4 is possible, but then B4,
But before he played b5 though, I guess no, he's hitting a knight.
it's possible, but
So
in my opinion, we should not give the bishop, just save it.
exactly. And so a6 b5 coming with tempo, yeah. Because a lot of times if black had played a6 without a tempo on a piece, then white can play a4 preventing b5. But if they can get a6 b5 bishop b7, that's really nice development for black in general. So it's not something you want to allow as white. Much less giving the bishop pair, you're also just giving him free flow development.
So that's why bishop A4 or bishop D6 is needed. Rook E1 takes, and now black gets a free hand. He can simply develop pieces. Knight D5 E6, and again, this was like got rested. Black simply develop pieces. Everything under control. All the squares are under control by black. Even all the squares. So white has very little left to play. Only this square is for white now.
So would you say
Right.
is black significantly better already, or is this just totally equalized? And
Black is come like his long-term advantage, got static advantage, both good bishops. No, I mean no problem for the king. Got like good king safety, center control. Whenever he wants, he can break the center. So black has got lots of like cards in his pocket and gives better. I mean, objectively, practically very easy position to enjoy.
it's almost like a color swap. Maybe he feel like black feels like they're playing the white pieces now. It's not totally winning yet, but you're kind of, hey, I'm pressing, I'm comfortable, I have all the starting advantages that maybe a white player more would be accustomed to.
Mhm. So castles, b3, f5, knight d2, b4. Okay. I'm not really happy with this b4 move because as a black, you would like to open the bishops and the position in general. So maybe something like d5 or let's say queen d7, you try to play rook e8 and then you just try to play d5. Would have been appreciated more than b4 because getting b4 is like, okay, you block the knights, but then you can exchange one pair of bishops and then it's not that easy to do much with the one bishop. And if it's a close position, the knight would be improved very soon. So that's why before not little bit committal, maybe d5 or maybe just trying to improve pieces like queen d7, rook e8, or even rook f7, rook e f8, and then trying to do something here would have been a better option for black. Mm. And look, this black simply blocks everything, and so as the white. So now only hope for black is just trying to get this g5, g4, h5 work out somehow. Maybe bishop going down like this, and the ideas could come like this. So this is the only plan for black now, which probably he did in some way. Now this comes the here comes the bishop. Now white wants to go a3, trying to do something from this side. That is why it's always better to start with a5 first. And if you see your opponent doing something in a3 like this, you can always try to play a4, a3, e1, or strike first so that you don't face problems to defend the pieces or the inactive pieces. But bishop c8 was played, and now there was no time to get this a4, a4 back. So a5, bishop d2 was played. And if a4, then sometime maybe this would be possible someday. Or just take and probably queen b1, queen b3 with a3. So black played h5, focusing on the main plan, attacking the king. And trust me, like playing all these moves does not help me to survive longer. You can defend for some time, but in the end, the rook is gonna come and you're gonna have problems. And that's what happened in the game. The bishop at 6 e1, wanted to put bishop on f6, the queen would come like this. The king after, once the king is moved, g4 is ready. Because if you take, then bishop g4 is already very annoying. F3 is coming, queen h4 check is coming. Very good position here for black already. So h4, queen h4 check, force moving g1, h4. And now nothing much left for white in this game, but white tries knight g4, takes. Even this was possible, but then he goes rook f7 with the idea of f3 break. Not sure how great this was, but looks nice to me because the point is if rook f2, then they have got rook h7. And it's a checkmate trade, so no time for that. So he goes for knight d1 with the idea of trying to make a strong blockade with the knight. Now rook g7. Yes, one move gets wasted here for black. Direct rook g7 was better indeed. But as I said, the advantage is so good or the so long term that even if you make moves like this, and come to g7, you will still have better position. Takes, and knight c6. So trying if king e2, someday knight d4 could be a helpful move. For example, queen h5, queen h1, and to take on g2, that would be helpful. Now bishop h4, another idea, trying to get rid of this blockade. And now once the knight d4 comes, so this was also a good idea, trying to just play bishop b2, but in the game he could not do so because bishop b2 there's a queen h1 checkmate. So And once the knight d4 comes, I think it's just game over. He even plays rook g2, just making use of the pin. Now this is a threat. This is a threat. I would have even played this first because it's just an extra option you get always. But
Yeah,
okay, he wanted to make sure.
I mean, John. Look at John's time use here. John doesn't
Oh wow.
think. He doesn't like to think, and he likes to. It also kind of shows like his potential because he still actually thinks playing like this is okay. And he's approaching 2100. He actually blunders away a lot of games playing like this. Gets swindled by strong players because he'll totally crush your positions and he'll just continue to move as if he's like showing off to like how fast he can move and how little he needs to think. But really, that's not how you play classical tournament chess. So, as impressive as this is, I feel like it's just another sample of completely ridiculous time usage by John that he definitely needs to correct.
Definitely, definitely. For example, I mean, this is a position where white could resign in like two, three moves. If you play knight g4, queen attacks, queen moves somewhere, you play f3, and maybe it's a good time to resign already because b3 hangs, e2 is coming, knight e2 is coming, rook g1 is different threat. But instead, he just exchanges everything, and okay, it's another game. Like it will be some other few more moves, but white will not resign because he will think that okay, some chances. Also, he did not get knight d4 first. Like he could have just simply made the rook right there, but instead, he goes rook f7. I understand the bishop is very, very bad with this all these pawns making a pawn turn like this. But he could have simply made white resign long back. Even threats this. Could have brought the knight first and then maybe a king first, and then could have done that because black has so many options to do here. Instead, he just trades everything, brings the king. Everything is winning, like doesn't matter. So if king moves and like this, he will come like this and win this. So yeah, I would say good game by John, but
Yeah.
as you suggested, he needs to correct the timings and the lines.
And if you're his opponent too, in my opinion, it just totally improves my confidence. So I've had totally lost positions against John, but he's moving so fast that
Mhm.
I'm sitting there
He
and
could
I
survive.
and it makes me want to work 10 times harder to try to find tactics because I know he's gonna blunder something. Like there's no way he's calculating
He's playing
anything.
it.
Uh, he's
He's playing a
just
clean game. Yeah.
he's just playing like it's a blitz game, and he's a very good blitz player clearly. But you know, yeah, strong tournament opponents are just going to it's going to make them try harder, not discourage them.
Yeah. So let's jump to the next game between Thomas and Michel. It was a French difference, probably
Yeah.
inspired from the
So
World Championship match.
so just a quick background on these players. Thomas is national master, strong player. Yeah, he was national master back in the '90s, so he's
Wow.
very strong player traditionally, and we're lucky to have him play now and then in the club. And Mitchell is up and coming. He's viewer of the channel, and yeah, he won last month's open section. Up and coming club player. I'm sure he'll be following Daniel's. Yeah, he's kind of following Daniel's path of winning open and then graduating to premier. So Daniel and Mitchell, I would say, are a similar profile.
Yeah, and probably that's why not so ambitious opening by Thomas here, just trying to keep it simple, playing the exchange variation in the French. Um, and and yeah, just keeping it simple. Even actually, just he just wants to play bishop e3 or bishop f4 and not to worry about any knight h5 ideas at some point. So x3 was played, a6, trying to get some space here, takes, bishop g5, and now this position is not so good for black because of the associated pawn on d5. But black still finds to way to defend it. For instance, knight d5, there's a queen b2, and knight c7 maybe just move a bit. Yeah, rook a7. And now it's much really equal, like takes, and anyway, you're going to play knight c6, knight d4, so it's going to be equal or close to equal. But still, there are some weaknesses which Thomas attacked precisely to win this game. I will say I would put like this. Again, attacking on the weakness, rook f6, knight g5, and now we finally that the time has come that this e6 cannot be defended anymore. So he goes king h8. Now this allows queen h5 as well, I think, which was winning on the spot. If you play rook h6, we have got queen e8 mate. Okay, this will come, but not a big deal. And if h6, then also probably something like this is possible. Something like this, or yeah, the knight g5, g5, queen g6, and this variation. Okay, I went so fast, so let's do it a slow-mo. So h6, queen e8 check. Usually bishop f8 is bad because we just simply take. So rook f8, you want to attack queen, you play. This is also possible, like queen g6 takes and bishop here, but then at least he can play rook f5. So knight f7 check, forcing things off. If king g8, then just takes, and you take everything and just put bishop like that to win it. So king h7, bishop d3 check, g6. Again, lots of options, but this is simpler. You give a check, and you want to play queen g6 next, so you just checkmate here itself.
Yeah, so I think we can see a showcase there of how quickly an IM can calculate mates and kind of, it's just, it really does come second nature to strong players. So, just, oh, this is mating. Oh, you could have done this to John's game coming earlier. You don't need extreme. Yeah, it's just, anyways, cool to see, but you can kind of see to all of us aspiring club players, yeah, what the level you really need to get to as far as pattern recognition and calculation, where this stuff just comes to you very quickly and easily.
Yeah, it all comes with the practice, and the more times you do, more puzzles you solve, pattern recognition gets faster and better. So in the game, he just played like rook f6, knight g5, king h8, and bishop e6, knight c6, and now okay. So for the moment, black has survived, but he has lost a pawn clearly. But at least not getting checkmated. So still something better. He loses exchange here probably. King g8, knight d6, king back. White just trying to move around, and now queen h5 in the end. h6 check again. Bishop f8, and now the problem is after knight f7, king g h7. We don't have this, but we do have queen takes h6. Sorry, queen takes f8. And then we need to figure out if we could win like queen h8, king g6 check. I don't see a mate yet. The knight looks trapped to me. And probably that's why he just went back to e4, attacking the rook, keeping it simple. If rook f3, there's a queen f8, followed by this checkmate.
Yeah, I can't. How is Black going to recover that rook on a7? I can't imagine him getting it back now. I
I mean,
guess
there
he's
was
got to he's got to play
like,
b5 at some point or something. I guess.
I mean, there was only one way to recover. Like, for example, this portion you played this, and after capture, just go back. There's just no other way to recover it. Because if you don't do it initially, I mean, the
Well,
attacks will
what
keep
about
on coming.
b5? What about b5 X-ray defending g7 and then just stepping to the
Yeah,
side
much
king
better
h8?
way. Much better version to do it. Like we just try to improve like this. But again, this NG5 is gonna hurt. There's got some backline threats. This queen H5 is gonna come.
But at
But
least at
in
least my
return,
rook's playing now though. At least
yeah.
he
You can
can
just play G6,
White can
go
blunder
back queen
something at
H7.
least.
Yeah,
When my rook's just stranded on a7 with behind a pawn, I'm like, White can't even blunder anything.
yeah. At least I would say black can lose respectfully.
Yeah.
But this is like the Rook on H7. No, like white is just having fun here, moving pieces around, getting this rook trapped. And now no places for rook anywhere. It is like a very good, looks like a good rook, but no places at all.
Yeah, I'd say you're letting White convert without any heart attacks. They don't even have to calculate a line. They just get to
Yeah,
improve their pieces. I mean, they of course they have to calculate some lines, but you know what I mean.
got
Like
it. Yeah,
as you're totally lost here, just got to throw kitchen sink at something. But okay, nothing too easy here to do.
gets the full rook, and even the king probably very soon. Because for checks, there's this beautiful tactic: Queen H5, King G8, Bishop D5 checkmate. So King G8 was played. Again, check comes in, Queen G6, and checkmate thread. So it takes Queen H5 checkmate. So in the end, very much similar checkmate happens, which we were discussing some time ago. Again, a good game
Nice,
by Thomas.
yes, because h takes is just now the bishop. I was actually thinking about that pattern earlier, but the bishop didn't control. There was a pawn in the way before, but yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. And now we come to the last game of the day. That is between Robert. I mean, sorry, Marin versus Robert.
Okay. I believe this is also going to be Premiere.
Mm-hmm.
So we pretty much had we had all Premiere and then just Nathan's one board. So it sounds like we got a pretty big Premiere section this month. That we only have 8 DGT boards. So
Right.
I'm not sure what happened with the eighth board, but sometimes you'll see half the boards Premiere, half the boards Open. That probably means we have a pretty small Premiere section that month. But it sounds like we got a lot of Premiere players this month because we've seen almost all Premiere boards.
Right. And here Maiden is trying to play something like, I don't know how to call it, but there's an opening call like if you play knight f3 and e3, then they call it like the e3 poison. But if you play e3 on move 2, it allows blacks a lot of things. So not sure exactly what to call it.
Yeah, Norm's a system player. He plays Kale, he plays Stonewall, and then
Yeah, Cole or
and
spin wall type of setups, right?
he's
Something like
not,
that.
and I wouldn't say he's like super booked up. I mean, maybe he is, but he's gonna play those type of structures. He's gonna put his pawn on e3 almost every game. He sometimes
Mhm.
will put his pawn on. He decides if he's gonna play f4 or not based on the game, but he's gonna put his pawns on dark squares every single game.
Yeah, and after the opening, both players gets like a reasonable portion to play on. Again, castling was an option, but um, Marin just wants to make sure that takes and f3 happens and the blockade remains and the bishop has to go, bishop goes back. And there is no especially most like, for example, you play castle. Now black can play knight g6 or knight c6, avoiding the exchange or knight g6, let's say. And now again, white needs to figure out what to do with these people because knight b3 again, knight f4 loses the bishop. So it's better that you just take it here, simplify it, and no knight f4 or something like that. Also, maybe like this possible someday. Usually, it's better to put the knight on the d4 square in front of the IQP pawn, because then you can play bishop f3 and like this, and in the end, like the rooks will come like d1, d2, and you would win the pawn. Like that's the standard way of doing it or playing it against the IQP. But he goes bishop d4. Okay, castle c4, simply a3.
So
Yes.
my current understanding is black has the IQP. They should be attacking and trying to avoid piece trades, and white should be trying to trade pieces and get to an endgame and play against that pawn. Would that be consistent for this position, or?
And another interesting thing to note is like until this point, Robert had just bridges out everything. Like he has got 1:30 complete on the clock. And this for the first time he thinks and like for 3 minutes or something and plays knight e4, which is a good move.
Just one point. Robert is very similar to
But
John. He uses
yeah, super entertaining.
he barely uses any time, and
Just look at this.
sometimes he will, but
Like bishop a4, he just wants to go g4 and like, he's already smelling the blood here.
yep, that's a Robert move.
And now opponent plays s3, he's like, no problem, at g4, just 5 seconds, yeah? No worries. Takes
Yeah,
time.
well, I've already come this far. I mean,
And instead of taking here now, okay, of course it's very risky decision to take here. But sometimes you can also get lucky. For example, bishop a4, bishop f3, and you think that okay, you're winning some material here. Then actually you end up losing it sometimes because the king is getting checkmated. But okay, here maybe rook a4 is possible. And it is blunder, of course, because queen g4. But now after queen g4, there's a queen g5. So
yeah,
maybe
yeah. Come back to when he played g5 too, because look at that glorious bishop on d4. Like,
uh,
you know,
I would never play
White
g4
White
bishop.
White has this amazingly anchored piece in the center of the board, and you're like, you know what I need to do? Weaken all my dark squares.
Yeah, he's just not worried about it. He's like, if something happens, I'll play f6. No worries. And maybe also bring rook like this. We never know. So takes, bishop e2 comes back. And and even this move is very risky, but okay, if queen h4 is coming, why not? But is there any checkmate? I doubt. So g3, knight g3, yes, f g3, queen g3, and bishop comes back. I don't see a mate yet, but definitely there's
Well,
lots of compensation.
this actually is consistent with the plans of an IQP positions because black's supposed to attack. So I guess a g5 g4 is a little bit too crazy for me, but it is consistent with the thematic position.
And now queen h4 needs to be queen f3 or something like this needs to be played. So queen h2 king here. And after bishop d3, king f3, and probably still not losing because there's a bishop here. Oh, sorry. Still not losing because there's a bishop here, and it prevents rook from coming to f6. So it's interesting to see that how actually he end up winning this game. Okay, so he creates a new weakness with queen g3. Can I just go king e3 here? This would be, oh, luckily this is not winning for white because after rook g1, there's a bishop f2 check. Otherwise, would have been disaster for, or also there's a checkmate, bishop g5, you have to play this move and it's a mate. Nice. So Robert has really got very little small tricks, which probably entertains everyone.
Yep, this was definitely an entertaining game from Robert, and yeah, definitely got to criticize the time use again. Look at that, that's crazy. 10 minutes for that whole game. You got the time, just think use it. He will. To his credit though, Robert will start thinking if he gets in a bad position or he doesn't have any good moves that flow. But yeah, is what it is though.
Yeah. So he tries to defend the threat with bishop f2, but this has a drawback. Now simply rook comes in and we are having threat of rook f6. So white must take bishop h4 so that it prevents the square takes. And now everything depends upon if queen d4 works or not. White plays queen d4, only hope, rook f6, king to e2, rook to e8, and king to d2. But king d2 allows queen g5, and king d3 allows queen to g5, and king d1 allows what?
Maybe something like rook takes rook, bishop takes, and rook e1 or
D1.
queen e1.
Or this is like you just try to trade pieces and convert
Yeah,
like this. Just one of the variations. Probably there was mate as well, but basically black was winning in all the variations. So this was played in the game, king d2 and all this. In the end, queen g3 also happened. So no way that you,
cold blooded.
yeah,
Taking
you
taking
trade
it
your
with
opponent.
check.
Yeah, you have to suffer. You're gonna get checks, and this is where my team decided to resign
Great.
because
Well,
bishop f3 and simply rook f3 is coming next. Must take, otherwise queen g2. So takes, and now this is lost, or whatever you play is lost. But wait, rook e2, I believe there's a king b1 option available. So probably you need to start with rook e4.
but
And now
you could even think about trading queens there, and I think
yeah, even the endgame is running.
that's going to be you got a rook behind a passer, and you got two more
Or
passers.
even
I
like
mean,
this, you can go
I'm
some
no I'm
sort of,
no rook endgame expert, but even that looks like I could win
even
that.
like this is possible, or even like this, like you make this guy suffer, and then you trade queens so that you don't need to calculate any line like Robert, and just blitz out and regain the time, whatever lost on the clock.
Get the connected pass. See, I even had I saw it this position, but then I was thinking shove my e pawn. So getting the passers rolling is even more effective.
So yeah, this is it. Like all the games we have covered, we have got 7 games.
Perfect.
And the highlight is, of course, the Nathan scores 2 out of 2.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for the coverage. I think we will try to be live next week, Thursday night for the games. If we can, if we have technical difficulties, we'll probably just use this as a general strategy. So if you're ever missing the stream and wondering where we're at, we might have had technical difficulties or an appointment or something, and in that case, we're just going to do a video recap instead of a live broadcast. So,
Yeah. So, guys, hope to see you live next week. And until then, good luck and practice well and try to entertain as you always do. Bye
bye.
bye.